Hi, this is Phil, and I'm here to tell you all about the Capes and Lunatics Patreon. Don't miss out on our comic book creator interviews, including our monthly Chichester chats with comic book legend DG Chichester, superhero movie brackets in our search for the worst comic book movie of all time, and many, many more specials, all completely uncensored. Access starts for $3 a month, full video when you pledge $5 a month. Check out the link in our show notes or go to patreon.com/capesandlunatics. Hope to see you there.
This is Luca Perich, host of a Totally Turtle sports and gaming YouTube channel, and you're listening to the Capes and Lunatics Podcast Network.
Recording has started. In a world of capes and lunatics, of gods and monsters, there are threats too great for any one hero to face alone. In those times must rise a team of Avengers, and this is Avengers Declassified. I'm your host, Charlie the Professor Esser, and with me, as always, is the blue-eyed bomber of the Burg of Pits,
Phil Podcast Perich.
Welcome, podcast. Straight from the pit. Glad to have you. I don't know if that was an intentional slight at Jim Shooter in the new universe when they blew up Pittsburgh, or if that was actually something that that's the thing. That's the thing. It's like, I don't know how that goes through. I don't know if someone decided it, or if that was something that he was totally cool with, because you know what? Blowing up your hometown, kind of a thing for some people, but
Coming from a Jersey.
Just yeah, well, see, I couldn't devastate. See, I'm not from Newark. I wasn't born here. So I could never harm it because I came as an immigrant. So you have to cherish what you've come to. But I actually have written sci-fi stories where my hometown got destroyed. So, and not that I had an unhappy childhood and my hometown deserved to be destroyed, but it was like, yeah, wipe it away. It's fine. Oh, but tonight we are talking Iron Man 112 and 113?
212 and 213.
212 and 213. Thank you, Philip. Thank you, Philip Podcast Perich, the man in charge of everything. Oh my goodness, this makes me so happy. Do you know who are in these books, Philip?
Oh yes, that's why I picked them, Mr. Charlie Esser. Yes, Dominic Fortune. Yes,
the greatest superhero of all time, Dominic Fortune. He is a hero and a half, to be sure. Even in his elderly, decrepit state, which is not that elderly nor that decrepit. And to be fair, this is a guy, he's in shape and he's been a superhero since the 40s, but this is in the 80s. This is like 40 years later.
Uh-huh.
So even if he was 20, he's 60. He's AARP. He's got a wife and kids who are grown and are freaking lawyers at this point, which is honestly one of the most delightful aspects of this is that his son is a lawyer.
Yeah. But no, isn't the whole thing that the wife is already dead because he's just like, I loved your mother, but that Sabbath from back in the day. Oh,
yeah, and that's just what you want your elderly, demented dad to say. It's like, your mom was great, but let me tell you about this chick I used to bang in the 40s. Hoigevalt. And that's that character, and that's who this is. But man, it makes you feel like Rose's husband in heaven when she's dancing with Jack. And it's just like, dude, you know, that guy from the boat, that's who you want to dance with? You know, we did have like a lifetime and raised a whole family. You know, I mean, I don't mean to be rude about it, but jeez, was I that bad that the guy you couldn't make room for on the door gets to dance with you for all eternity? For reals. It's just a little weird. But yeah, so Dominic's son. What is Dominic's? Jerry Fortunov is not taking his father's re-embracing of his heroic history well.
No, is it David?
No, he's David.
Oh, okay.
He's David Fortunov. That's Dominic Fortune. Yeah. Jerry Fortunov is his son.
Yes, it is Jerry with a J. Yes.
Yeah, and you know, it's a little you know, it's a little sad. His wife is no help. Because they want to put him in a home, and you know, this is our trip to Bountiful, as it were, and you know, it's hard to argue that he shouldn't be in a home, but at the same time, he's not really a danger to himself or others. He just thinks he's a superhero, but he actually was demonstrably a superhero in the past.
Oh, yeah.
So the argument that, well, you know, he thinks he's a superhero is, well, is he a superhero? It's like, well, he used to be a superhero in the 40s. It's like, well, is he still a superhero? It's like, well, he did fight Alternative Century with Spider-Man last week. It's like, it sounds like he's a superhero. It sounds like maybe you're getting involved in superheroic business. Maybe let the old man have his fun.
Exactly.
You know. Because he's an old man who's doing his business. Meanwhile, back at Stark Labs, Clemenstra, which is weird because they call her Cly, but I don't know if it's supposed to be pronounced Cly or Clee. Because it's just CLY. And when I first read it, it like sounded like he was just saying Clee. And I thought he was being interrupted, and not that, oh no, this is for Clay or Cly or Clay. You know, so was he interrupted before he said something for Clint? By the way, I do have to say, I made a plaque for your dead brother. Is like the weirdest empty gesture I've ever heard of.
Your brother who was murdered.
Well, no, and then he's like, I must get this letter exactly right with my laser beam, which is okay. I mean, I appreciate the effort you're making, Mr. Stark. You know, the printer already has letters like made that'll go into the printing press.
I mean, I guess that's something more durable than a piece of paper, or you know.
I mean, what was it supposed to be written on? Was it written on steel or something? Or
I don't know,
because it looked like paper. It looked like, honestly, it looks like the exact same image as the best Pontiac salesman for Dominic or for David Fortunov that we see later. That he again doesn't replace in the frame, but just has another exact frame with Sabbath that he's apparently kept the whole time, which, you know, is impressive too. You know, it's delightful that the wife knew the whole time that he was like, you know, I'm depressed, but you know, I love you, my darling, but you're no Raven Sabbath. You're not this girl I once banged. You know?
I look at this picture for 40 years.
Yeah, it's a little weird. I'm going to be honest with you. As much as I love Dominic Fortune, I do feel that he has. Who wrote this issue, by the way?
I believe this was, and let me double check here. Yes, Danny Fingeroth.
Oh, this is Danny Fingeroth. See, that's the problem. Yeah, usually Dominic Fortune gets written by one of my favorite writers. It's Chad something. Well, it's something Chad. The guy who created Dominic Fortune. I'm blinking on his name all of a sudden. He did Hey Kids comics. He's a very good comics writer. He did not write this comic, and it's unfortunate because I think that Dominic Fortune suffers because of it a little bit. But but it's fine. It's fun, and we do enjoy it. And he's on his adventure, and his adventure takes him to Los Angeles, where apparently Simon Steele, an old Nazi supervillain who is now a billionaire industrialist, as you do, because, to be fair, they were billionaire industrialists before they became Nazis. Why should the post-Nazi world be any different?
Are you talking about Len Wein, who created Dominic Fortune?
No. It's
it says creators Len Wein and Howard Chaykin.
Chaykin, that's the name.
Okay, yeah.
Howard Chaykin created Dominic Fortune. I don't know what Len Wein did, but Howard Chaykin, he's like the one comic book artist. When I remember his name, I remember, and I always know his artwork because he has this very what do you call it? It's a thing with the way that the inks are done, where it's like kind of splotchy. I like it. He does a lot of hair falling and things like that. It's Chaykin's artwork when you see Chaykin's artwork. But I do love Chaykin, and like I said, he's still around. He's still making comics. He just did Hey Kids comics, which is to me one of the most enjoyable series out there. But getting back to this, Dominic Fortune is off on his adventure as Rhodey and Cly and Tony work on stuff. Interesting, because I got a little confused in this, because when Cly comes in and Tony's in the Iron Man armor, she calls him Tony.
Mm-hmm.
So clearly she knows his identity.
Oh,
but this is still a secret.
Yes.
We're not in that, everyone knows who Tony Stark is, Iron Man now.
Yeah, I know.
Which actually, it strikes me, so that did not happen until Civil War, did it?
I think it was like right before. So yeah, it was like early to mid 2000s. Yeah. So we're far away from him revealing his identity.
Yeah, but and it's one of those things where it's like,
21st
I wonder how much of it was known but not public. It's like sort of like Steve Rogers had a secret identity, but his identity was always a public record. If you want to say who was Captain America, it would say Steve Rogers, because that was Freedom of Information Act stuff, and you could get that information. You could know that Steve Rogers was Captain America, but not everyone knew Steve Rogers was Captain America, which is why he could have a secret identity during that period. So I do wonder, you always wonder with stuff like that. It's like how much of a secret identity is an open secret?
It's kind of like that thing where it's like people know, if you say Steve Rogers, people say, oh, it's Captain America. But I guess he doesn't run around without a mask enough where it's like he can walk down the street and a lot of people may not recognize. Well, now maybe, but back then they wouldn't recognize Steve Rogers.
There's
pre-internet.
Yeah, although at the same time, you have to be really good at faces to know someone, because and like I always say, it's like people tell Nick Fury he looks exactly like Samuel L. Jackson. He says, "What? I always thought I looked like David Hasselhoff," but okay, whatever. In all these cases, it's like I guess it's like, oh yeah, it kind of has that David Hasselhoff-y face. Has that? Do not eat the entire fruitcake in one sitting, please. You can have another slice of fruitcake, yes. Then put the. I know you like fruitcake. This is my life, Philip. Anyway, Tristan says hi, Phil. Let's get on to some activities that happen in this book. Our good friend Dominic is chasing down the thugs and bests them because he's got that old man strength, Philip.
Yeah.
Do not question old man strength. Old man strength will beat you in the end. Although he's like, oh, my sciatica the whole time, you know.
Well, he it's not like he's chasing him down. He's escaping from them. The old man feat that I find impressive is him dangling from a helicopter.
Oh, I love that. I love that. He's like, oh, it's like, I forgot how dangerous this was. I really need to get off of this. But you know what's funny about that is that you can see him in his 20s, like going, oh, this was a bad idea. Why did I do this?
Yeah.
And it's, you know, and even still, he knows how to fall. He knows how to jump. We do see that there is a new Ironmonger.
Yeah.
Obadiah Stane's machine. You know, what's interesting when I'm reading these, I felt like all of these are leading up to the Armor Wars. This and the next set we're going to do in the next episode.
Oh yeah, well the next episode, because it takes place after the next what we're going to do next episode. Yeah,
because even in this issue, it states with the Ironmonger that it's all based off of Stark tech. You know, like we stole Stark stuff and we've rebuilt it and we've made it better. Because what's the point of stealing technology if you don't make it better?
Well, Stane's dead, but Tony never really took the company back. I mean, eventually he creates like a new company, but yeah, I mean, the old Stark Enterprises is still, you know, or the Stark Industries is still out there. You know, that
makes you wonder if there's still a Stark Industries that's just owned by. It's just the brand is out there.
Well, Stane renamed it Stane, so I'm trying to remember if, the actual Stane company was still.
So that's an interesting question. Is Stane out there? Is it not? It's an interesting question. And do they still own the right to Stark Industries? Like they're like, no, we still keep that copyright. And we have 3 buildings that are still classified as Stark Industries, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So that we still own the name Stark Industries. Because that's why you have, like, you'll still see Standard Oil gas stations around.
Oh yeah. Oh no, he made a point when Stane took over, you know, taking the big letters off the building, take the R and the K off, put an N and an E. Yeah.
There we go. Because you save money if you only change half the sign.
Well, you only have to. The first 3 letters are the same.
Yeah, exactly. Well, no, but I learned that from Howard Cunningham. That was an episode of
Happy Days.
Happy Days, yes.
Hey.
When he bought the old pet shop and changed his name, and now it was Howard Cunningham's Hardware World, because it used to be Pet World, and now it's Hardware World. So that's because you save money if you only change half the sign. Moving right along.
I mean, I find I know they're trying to build suspense, but I find it kind of unbelievable when Tony's like, "This couldn't be Stane, is it?" Because at the end of 200, Stane kills himself rather than have Tony take him in. He puts his own repulsor to his head and blows his head off. I don't think this is Stane.
You know, and normally I'd say yes, but this is comic books.
Yeah, true.
And to be fair, it's like, we actually just have, at the end of this episode, we have the tragic death of Dominic Fortune, my friend. Dominic Fortune dies, declared dead by a doctor, and says, "This is a dead person. Let us move him away. Go away, family. We are going to remove the dead so that you don't have to look at them. But we'll ask you to identify them later, even though we're right here." And you can say, "Yeah, that's my dead dad." But we won't worry about that right now.
Yes, because at the end, Jerry takes the suit and it's like, "I'm going to get vengeance for my father."
And this, I like it, but I'm also disappointed that we don't get more of Jerry in this.
Yeah, true.
You know, it's like Jerry gets 1 issue as Dominic Fortune before we get the reveal that Dominic Fortune's still out there, still his own little adventurer.
And I know it's probably the brand, but like just the heart on like the one side of the, you know, the chest. I'm like, I know that's probably your brand, but it doesn't. Is that just reminding guys? Oh yeah, let's shoot him in the heart.
Well, that is actually that, because fun fact, Howard Chaykin actually created the character of Dominic Fortune for Atlas Comics as a character called Scorpion. There was a little scorpion on his chest. And then when Atlas Comics went out of business, Atlas Comics was the sort of revival of the old Atlas with Goodwin's, I want to say, son, recreating the brand. And he got all these great comic book writers to create stuff. But, to be fair, they didn't have an interconnected universe. All the stuff that kills superhero franchises today. You don't have an interconnected universe. No one's going to buy the other book. You have to have a reason why I'm going to go from Scorpion to whatever the other book was. And so after it was done, because they did a owner's rights thing, they said, okay, well, that's fine. Scorpion's dead, but let me go over to Marvel and say, hey, would you like to buy Dominic Fortune? And went over there and did Dominic Fortune. And the tragedy of the MC television universe is that we did not get Marvel's Most Wanted with Mockingbird, Hunter, and was it Ving Rhames as Dominic Fortune?
Was it? I can't remember.
I want to say it was Ving Rhames. Yeah, they did that. They did a pilot, and I guess it tested poorly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and they killed it, and that's why we didn't get the spinoff of Marvel's Most Wanted. Also, possibly because there was all the turmoil in the Marvel television universe at the time. So, as you do, my friend. Meanwhile, let's get to the next episode where Dominic Fortune, where Jerry Fortune is gonna go punch some bad guys, but he's in shape. He's fit. His dad was a superhero. He made sure his kid was a superhero, or at least superheroic enough. And he is beating up Vikings, as you do at the start of this, because who else you gonna punch but a Viking? And the Vikings, basically state, yeah, I know I'm just an actor in a play, but I'm also a supervillain henchman on the side.
Yes, because the battle's taking place at the Opera House. Yes. And here is the truth of it. And man, I love that comics code. He's hanging the guy over and strangling him. He says, all right, I'll tell you. It's yada, yada, yada. And, Simon stealing Raven Sabbath, yada, yada, yada. And he drops him anyway. But he falls into paper mache, so he is unharmed. Yes.
The threat was, somewhat overblown, but that's okay. We appreciate it. Because he's not a cold-blooded killer. Because he says his dad wasn't a cold-blooded killer. Even though how much he spoke to his dad about his adventures is probably debatable. Because I get the feeling, especially as time has moved on, Howard Chaykin has made Dominic Fortune an absolute cold-blooded killer when the need arose. He wouldn't kill you just to kill you, but he has no problem shooting first like Han Solo. Moving right along. Iron Man is following Jerry.
Okay.
Yeah, and stops him and tries to talk him out of, revenge. Revenge does not solve anything, or something like that. Or you're not really a superhero. You're just a lawyer with big muscles. Exactly, Tristan. I don't know if you heard that, but you're just a lawyer with big muscles. Yeah, Daredevil. Yeah, that's all Daredevil is. Is a lawyer with big muscles. So. Well, he's blind. Yeah, he has the radar sense.
Yes, except this guy wasn't trained by ninjas. He just had a good gym membership.
Well, no, he was trained by his dad.
Oh, yeah.
He was trained by a 1940s hero.
Was his dad aware of his eye thing?
No. We're talking about Jerry Fortunoff, who is Dominic Fortune's son. Dominic Fortune was a 1940s swashbuckling hero.
Oh, okay.
Technically a 1930s swashbuckling hero. But, you know, it's a whole thing. Moving right along.
But
you know, Jerry basically talks Tony down and out, you know, and I love the fact that when Tony flies off, he's like, wait, did I agree to this? What, you know, this guy's a lawyer. He probably just argued me into submission. I don't know if he can fight. You know, which is nice because I love dumb Tony Stark.
Hey, if there's one kind of person who can back down a billionaire, it's a lawyer.
One would hope, but you know, again, that's sort of like one of those magical thinking ideas that we have nowadays. Just wait till the law gets involved. But as it stands, he follows along anyway with his stealth powers.
Mm-hmm.
But that does not prevent there to be a random oil slick on the road. Which is weird because in all my years of driving, I've never once encountered an oil slick on the road. I don't know where these come from. Maybe this is a Western thing. I don't know. I haven't driven that much in the West, although I have driven in the Southwest before. I've never encountered just an oil slick. Because it's funny because there's a gas truck that is in the story, but it's not the cause of the oil slick.
No, it's coming from the other direction. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, where did this oil slick come from? You know, and for what it's worth, there are like, so here's the thing. There are situations in the Midwest that you get where, like, when the rain falls and you sort of get that light rain on the asphalt, and the oil rises on the asphalt, and that's an oil slick. And then you have like black ice, which is the ice you can't see because it's that thin coat of ice on the asphalt that has the oil on top of the ice, so it's even worse. But just like a slick of oil on this,
I know, yeah. It should have been like, oh, it's water hydroplane.
Well, you know, but that's the thing, is like, I don't know if that's a reality or not. Mm-hmm. I'm sitting here looking at it, I'm like, is this a real thing? Is this something that occurs and I should be worried about? Or is this something that is just being, it's an idea in a comic book and we say oil slicks exist? You know, aside from 007 dropping oil to stop the bad guys. Moving right along. Tony Stark saves the truck, which allows Dominic Fortune to get away. Yet somehow Clyde still winds up getting to the fortress first, which is weird. In its own way. Yeah. In her car, it's like, because he left her a message. He said, "Hey, just so you know, wait 24 hours. I'm going to this place. To defeat the bad guy."
I mean, they do the plot point where after Tony catches the truck and puts it down, he's like, "Oh, I better take the driver to the hospital or whatever." So,
yeah. But I mean, that I don't worry about because
yeah.
First off, I guess he wasn't wearing a seatbelt.
Well, I don't know. I mean, is it just me, or did it seem like they portrayed the truckers maybe not the youngest guy? So maybe he's like, oh, maybe he's gonna have a heart attack. Maybe he's gonna have a heart attack or something. Or,
I mean, that's a possibility too. I mean, there's lots of ways this all goes south for poor Tony. But in the moment, he is dealing with his situation, and he flies away to deal with the trucker in his little X cap. He might be a mutant. We don't know. Because, it's not a Confederate flag hat because you can't see anything, but, I guess there's implications to be made. Meanwhile, Dominic Fortune shows up at the place. Clyde shows up to talk him out of it, and then the guards show up, but also tell him, don't worry, it's not your fault. We've been tracking him for the last 20 miles.
Mhm.
So they really go out of their way to say, don't feel bad about what's happening. We do know it looks like maybe you sabotaged the hero, but actually, really, we were always waiting for him. You're just here now, and maybe we're going to be nicer about it.
Well, then they're going to lock them up with Dominic Fortune, who's still alive, because, you know, Steele has him, but the guards come, he's like, he's gone, but he's like hanging again. What is this? At least 60-year-old guy, 60s, 70s. I mean, holding on to those pipes on the ceiling, you know, just with his his forearms. Like,
he's
wow,
he's a BA, man. He's got old man strength, Phil.
I guess.
Have you ever fought an old man? They will kill you.
No. He's like,
they have nothing left to live for, man.
No. He found all kinds of energy because he's like, I just saw Sabbath is one alive, and two, she hasn't aged in 45 years.
Yeah, that's. You know, it's funny because they're going to give an explanation later, which I think they later retcon. And it's
like the niece or something, her like the original niece.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, but I think they re-retcon that where they say, "No, I just said I was my niece. I'm actually."
Oh my!
But that's later issues. But moving right along, where was I? Moving right along, so they go to fight, and again, and this is some Guild of Calamitous Intent stuff where all the henchmen have stun rifles.
Yeah, like I was gonna say, it's like that 80s. It's like the 80s G.I. Joe cartoon. Everyone's just like shooting at each other with, you know, laser stun gun. You know, yeah.
Although, to be fair, you know, this is the thing that a lot of people maybe overlook with the Guild of Calamitous Intent is that if you actually start killing people that will be missed, if you just randomly start killing people, there will be there will be investigations. The government will show up, and unless you've got a lot of money to spread around. And, you know, no one has enough money to silence everyone nowadays. You know, that can be costly. So it's best to make sure everyone is using stun weapons and not letting anyone die horribly.
Well, and you can't, and two, if you decide to uprise, you can't like shoot and kill the boss either. You know, it's like here minions, here, use stun rifles.
Yeah, well, and of course, I guess that's sort of the plot line in the next set we'll talk about next week. But anyway, in this case, we get the big fight. We get Jerry doing a whole sacrifice himself for his dad, which I guess I get in its own right. I was not expecting Jerry to die from that. And honestly, to me, that's like the weirdest thing about this whole series is that Jerry dies saving his dad. Because, not for nothing, as great as Dominic Fortune is, I liked Jerry Fortune. Mm-hmm. I would have loved to see, you know, Hiram Fortune, you know, because he has kids. Jerry has kids, so I would love somebody to bring back Jerry's kids as like the Fortune twins.
Oh.
And just, you know, just be some total BA hardcore adventurers. So there you go, Marvel. Free idea.
Fortune's son.
Fortune's son, yeah. Or, you know, like I said, just bring back, because I think they said he has twins. I don't know, but he has kids. We know he has kids. We know that the Fortune bloodline lives. And exactly how you approach that is going to be your choice, Marvel, but I would love to see people explore that, have that. And because Dominic Fortune is still a rejuvenated character in the MCU or the Marvel Comics universe, it would be nice to see him meet his grandkids, and his grandkids like, what? You get to live forever, and our dad died? F you, Grandpa. You know, that would be delightful.
And again, you're right. I mean, I don't know if they really called out, but I mean, yeah, weren't these like stun rifles? But all of a sudden, Jerry gets killed by one.
Yeah, well, because his was the one that was shot by Steel. Because Dominic's gonna go fight Steel.
Oh yeah.
And that's the weird thing is they mentioned the fact that Dominic was wearing a bulletproof vest, but Jerry in the actual superhero outfit, no protection whatsoever. What are you gonna do, Phil?
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, because Steel's, as the boss is going to have, if there's one lethal weapon, the boss is going to have the lethal weapon.
Exactly. So, and that's the story, I think, for the most part.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's pretty much Jerry dies pretty quick, and then the next thing you see in the last 3 panels is basically Dominic Fortune says, "I'm going to find Steel. I'm going to find Sabbath," and
yeah, and then Clementia comes back to Stark Enterprises.
Mm-hmm.
She's going to help them build that space station. Did they ever build that space station?
I believe it kind of gets quarantined, I think, because I forget if AIM sabotages it or something. But like Tony goes back in like the 90s, and there's like all of a sudden there's like a techno monster on board and stuff, and. Yeah, no, after a while they can't use that space station. So
okay. Yeah, I mean that's always a problem. They never got to so like the Sword space station, that's just not built on top of it, right?
No.
So they just dropped that into the Sea-Lex Skylab and called it a day. Okay, Philip, anything else you want to talk about this week?
You want to talk about some new issues?
Sure, let's talk a couple new issues. There's a lot out there.
Yeah, Captain America, Sentinel of Liberty.
I love this. This is... They really don't address what's going on. They even... Because, like, we have Cap. He's been shot. So it opens up with Cap getting his shield back from Namor. And Namor, I like this Namor. This is a Namor that's like he's cool because he's chill. I like when Namor's chill. I like when Namor isn't trying to take over the world because there's a bunch of Atlanteans watching. Like Namor, when he's just like by himself, he's usually a pretty cool guy, unless he's in front of the Hulk. Then it gets to be a whole mess. But
Wait, what's wrong with him and the Hulk?
When he's with the Hulk, he has to show he's stronger than the Hulk.
Why?
Because he's
a macho man.
Yeah, he's a very powerful man who is not the most powerful man, but he defines his entire existence by being the most powerful man. And so when he meets other powerful men, it's hard for him. It's like the Wizard, He's super smart. He's a real genius. But, the minute Reed Richards walks into the room, he's not the smartest man in the room anymore. And Reed Richards doesn't care. But the Wizard really, really cares a lot about this. And Namor's like that, No one cares that, the Hulk is strong and Namor is strong. But Namor really cares that he's not the strongest guy in the world. So what are you gonna do? But anyway, so he
Namor basically just gives Steve, because Steve's all down because Bucky shot him and decided to try to take down this whole conspiracy himself. And then Namor's like that's Barnes. He's like, you're the guy who stands in the light. He's like, no, he's like Bucky's the killer.
Yeah, well, and that's the name. Namor has known him that long,
Yep.
He's been in the water long enough to have his memories back. He's doing okay, Now that Charles Xavier stopped sequestering all of his memories and being Charles Xaviering on stuff, what are you going to do, my friends? Yeah, but, he goes out, he gets followed. He's followed by Sharon, which is nice.
Yep, Sharon's back. Thank God she's young again.
I wouldn't care, and neither would Steve.
I know, but it's like you don't get any like lovey-dovey scenes when she was older. Never.
No, he was kind. He loved her. He was.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's the thing about poor old Steve and Sharon is,
I mean,
that's the thing.
Even
this emphasizes it strongly because when Sharon's young, she's a spy.
Yeah.
And she is not cottoning to Steve. She'll use the way that Steve feels about her to manipulate her. When Sharon was older, she was still a spy, but she knew that, there was a slight power differential and she couldn't use that sexuality to control Steve.
Yeah.
And so, it's honestly all those Carter kids, Carter daughters, nieces, sisters, whatever they are anymore, they, to me, exert a power over Steve Rogers that I don't necessarily think is appropriate. Yeah, exactly. Though I do appreciate it's not Peggy he's going back to.
Yes.
Because that would be creepy and weird. Because, I buried you, lady. I don't know why you're here. I don't know what necromancy is involved. But let's just call it a day.
But even though they both look younger, I mean, him and Peggy are probably closer in age, I'm sure.
Well, although I guess arguably since Sharon had that extra 12 years in Dimension Z, maybe they're all caught up.
I don't know. I don't think that I think Steve and Peggy are still older,
Well, it's weird how, ages are weird in comic books, basically.
Yes.
Especially when you don't age at a normal rate. And, I guess it's that whole... Did you ever watch Voyager?
Oh, yes.
And Neelix and Kes is 9, but her species only lives to 12.
Yeah.
And it's she is 9, but and Neelix is 40, but their species are kind of lined up in their own ways, to adulthood.
Oh yeah. One of their years is equal to 10 or 12 Earth years or something. Yeah.
Yeah, it gets weird in space, but it's weird for superheroes, and Loki has a baby with who's a horse, and as does Ares. I like the fact that both of them have horse children. So I would love to see Ares and Loki bond over having horse children. So it's oh, your kids are horses? Yeah, mine too. Horses, huh? Yeah, you can't deal with them. But moving right along, so they do know that Bucky has taken over the inner circle, or he's in the inner circle, and they get together their little quadrille of heroes. We, of course, got Black Widow, who always shows up because, lady's always looking for work. We got Hawkeye, who's hey, look, just so you know, I'm under contract with the city of New York. I'm the only legal superhero here right now.
When did Hawkeye ever worry about paperwork?
It's his one thing. It's the one card he can pull over Captain America right now.
I guess, yeah.
And that, I guess, is delightful in its own way.
Got Nick Fury.
Nick Fury Jr. Yeah, that's cool. And so we have the whole gang together, so that's nice. And
but then they make a plan, but then all of a sudden they Steve blacks out. Next thing he knows, he's in Kansas.
Oh yes, because that was where have all the AIMs gone? We were looking for Zola, and Zola is nowhere to be found, and AIM is nowhere to be found, but now Steve's in Kansas. He's in Kansas once again. can't say we're not in Kansas anymore.
You're banished to the cornfield.
Yeah, well, really, and we see that there's like all the hexagons though, all around him, and he is trapped there, perhaps forever. Dun dun dun. All right. We're 45 minutes into this podcast, Phil. Do you want to do another comic, or do you want to move on to the next show?
Let's save Avengers for the next show.
Yeah, let's save the Avengers for the next show. And then, Philip, if people would like to reach out to us, give us money, buy our merch, how can they do so?
I can always email us, CapesandLunatics@gmail.com, or call the voicemail 614-382-2737. That's 614-38-CAPES. And you can follow this show and all of our other shows on Facebook, on Twitter. The Capes and Lunatics network is on Hive now. So find links to all the social medias. The YouTube channel, again, subscribe, because everything we do gets a video. So if you want to see Charlie Esser's pretty face, smash that subscribe button so you can see that right now.
Smash it.
And the Patreon, because once again, we're paying for this out of our own pocket. It is our labor of love. Every little bit helps, but $3 to $5 gets you early access to creator interviews, including the monthly Chichester chats.
I got the good mic out for you guys.
Superhero movie brackets are over, but you can listen to the whole series now and become a patron, because Lil said you get to recommend or suggest ideas for shows in 2023. So get that power and pick yourself up some Capes and Lunatics and Capes and Lunatics Sidekicks merch. Find it all at Linktree, linktr.ee/Capes and Lunatics. Charlie Esser.
Well, you can always write to me if you have the inclination to do. At superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. And hey, folks, why don't you listen to Superconnectivity with me and Maz later this week? Likewise, you can always, that's how you write to us at the email, like our mothers and fathers once did. And likewise, follow me on the Twitter as I live tweet things when I feel like it, and occasionally Willow when I absolutely feel like it, because that doesn't have time to watch it. At Charlie Esser, that's CharlieEsser. Look for the 2 E's in the middle.
For quality. Bing!
I would like my blue check now. All right, dear friends, you have come to the end of another secret episode of Avengers Declassified. Please know this podcast will self-destruct eventually. Good night.
Remember, kids, don't use your children as human shields.
Well, he wasn't.
I know.
He volunteered.
Voluntarily. You say my elderly father.
Although, like I said, I do want more Fortune children.